I am here with Juan Antonio Flecha because I need to know whether or not Pogacar has showed his cards too soon. And you and I have something in common, and it's not that we've both won a Tour de France stage, but we happen to both own a bicycle from the same company who are sponsors of this episode, MMR Bicycles. I have the Adrenaline Arrow, and you have which model again?
It hasn't been released yet. I'm
Oh,
ahead
okay.
of the
So
game.
so nobody
But
nobody share this with anybody.
no. It will be released. I think in September. It's called the Grand Tour. So it's a bit more touring, obviously way more touring than the Adrenaline, and yeah, obviously the Aero, but the Aero model. But it's sort of very similar to the X Tour, but build that with more road focus components. So it's more a touring bike. Obviously, you can still use it on gravel, and it looks great. I mean, I love it.
No, I like it. And I have the X Tour, which you mentioned. If you guys are interested in hearing or learning more about that, check out my video on the channel, and I'll do one for the Adrenaline Arrow down the line. But today we're not talking about that. I want to know from you whether or not, first of all, Pogacar, we know he attacked on San Luca on stage two. And do you feel like this was a smart move? Do you feel like it was too soon? Let me know your thoughts.
I think obviously it wasn't too soon because he didn't go on the hardest bit of San Luca. San Luca's got gradients very steep at some point. He went, I would say, Pogacar attack happened on the most technical part of San Luca with those corners, those bends. He was clearly trying to anticipate a bit on a bring surprise, right? Like bring in unexpected move from his rivals. I think it's part of his character, the way he races. I did believe he was going to go on the attack. Probably not there. I was expecting him to go a bit earlier. Was it too soon in the race in the Tour de France? I don't think so. Pogacar likes to race. It is a small effort. You have to think San Luca is an 8 minutes, 9 minutes effort. Of course, later on he had to ride all the way to the finish line, but he likes to do this sort of Pogacar move, and I was sort of kind of expecting it. What I wasn't expecting was being a guy being so good and closing the gap so quick on today's wheel. That was impressive. I mean, that shows how good level, how well he's recovered from that injury. And it was definitely a bit too soon, maybe, or too ambitious in Tour de France, trying to or come into the lead of the race, probably.
Yeah, and I thought personally, obviously I don't have the experience that you have, but I thought stage one would have been where Pogue would have really went after it to see where Jonas is at, but instead
Mm.
he went on the second stage, and then Carapaz and Remco even ended up closing the gap. So do you think it was a wasted effort essentially because they were all same in GC by the end of the stage?
Yeah, I think it would have been a lot more risky to do on stage one. True, as you say, it would have been more the terrain to do that, just to go for one solo ride apart from the finish. But it would have taken a lot more effort than doing that on San Luca. At the end, he waited to the very end of San Luca. Remember, San Luca, 8, 9 minutes, therefore, those other climbs they went through on stage one were much longer, and the train onto the finish line were also, those big roads and a bit of headwind. That would have taken a lot more effort for Pogacar and probably waste a bit of energy, considering how much time he could have taken onto the GC guys. So that was smart, clever from the Pogacar. I think on day one they were clearly trying to test Vingegaard, see how or where he was on his condition. In fact, there was one of the climb where you could see UAE team trying to not put the hammer down, but increase the pace a bit,
Yeah.
and they stopped. They stopped when they saw Vingegaard there. They say, "Hold on, just stop doing what you're doing. Let just the race go." And yeah, so they waited on stage two, and Pogacar did. And yeah, I mean Yates. If you ask about that, it would fair to sort of think what the team was doing, and it showed a lot more interest Visma on San Luca than what UAE did on San Luca. If you think about it, because it was initially Visma, so Jonas' team trying to set a higher pace, while Yates from UAE, he did come, but a bit later. So in my opinion, I think it was very well played from Visma because they sort of made Pogacar and UAE, come on, we want to race today. We want to race. Just
Baited
bring
him
it on.
into it.
Yeah. And at the end, yeah, that made UAE as well to ride a bit harder and set it up for Pog. So it was quite interesting. Very nice to watch, obviously.
Yeah, and I'm definitely looking forward to. I mean, we still have stage 4 and 11 and 14, which are going to be really, really challenging. I'm sure there's going to be more fireworks. I was surprised to see Remco close the gap too, because he has been kind of like downplaying his
Yeah.
fitness, saying that he only got, I think, 1 week of intensity in or something like that. What do you think about his GC ambitions? Do you think he has a real shot at it?
I think everyone. I keep hearing people saying, "Oh, Tour de France is not for Renko. It's not his race. Let's see, right?" And that's probably the card that Renko is playing. All right. Well, might not be a Tour de France sort of cyclist, but let's find out, right? So he's playing it very smart. He keeps saying, as you well say, "I'm growing into the race. Let's see how I go more into the last week." But man, when you think about how he closed those 16, 17 seconds on 6 kilometers of flat, I mean, that's a pure Remco effort. He's got intensity despite not having really worked on it. And and
Yeah.
yeah, I'm sure he's got endurance. So let's see how he goes into the third week. But I was even more surprised on Monday when coming to the finish line. He always stayed behind Pot. He never wanted to be ahead. He doesn't want the jersey. He doesn't want that responsibility. So
Yep.
hold on, the yellow jersey is such a juicy thing to have, right? Especially in the first Tour de France. So why you wouldn't just see if you could get it? He's just playing it so smart and relaxed, which is surprising for someone like Remco Evenepoel, who's a super ambitious rider.
And isn't this his first Tour de France too? I think he said that, but
For
I was like, it's
Yeah,
his first one,
it
right?
is. Definitely. He never
Yeah.
done the tour before, and I think he's a good rider for the tour. He's a lot of people say, he's not you can win the Vuelta, but tour is another story. He did win one Vuelta last year. He tried to, and he blew up a bit. Then he came back and got those stages. But I mean, he's playing a bit smarter. Sometimes injuries, they're good for you. They make you sit a bit relaxed, rethink a bit, and get confidence in other aspects that you need for these races.
Yeah, and it feels like he's learned from the Vuelta experience, and he's definitely playing his cards wisely. Um, who else do you kind of think is maybe a GC sleeper? Personally, I think Carapaz is being overlooked, and now he's in yellow, obviously, so I can't really say that now. But he's someone I feel like hasn't been really talked about much or spoken about, someone who could potentially win or finish on the podium at least. Like, what are your thoughts on who's not being talked about more,
I mean,
or about as it should be?
yeah, yeah, I like to mention Carapaz. Well, just think about Carapaz when you mention him. It's like, let's go back to Liège-Bastogne-Liège. La Redoute, when Pot goes on that super steep climb, there's only one rider able to sort of give it a try to follow him, and that's Carapaz. So I would say the second best on that Liège-Bastogne-Liège, on La Redoute, on the crucial moment, that's Richard Carapaz. So we shouldn't underestimate him on a GC, of course not. But I like to mention Roglic. We have to mention Roglic. I
Of
mean,
course.
he's under the radar there. I mean, I was so expecting him to go on San Luca. It's his climb. He won Giro d'Emilia. It's his sort of kind of effort. He didn't do anything.
Yeah.
What is he playing? Does he got the legs? I believe so. And why he's not using it? He's letting others do it. I like to keep an eye on Roglic. Of course, it wouldn't be a surprise. So I should mention someone a bit more like not expected, but like Matteo Jorgensen, and he's sort of done GC, and I think he's going to be playing a big role for Jonas, especially now seeing how strong he is. But we have to count on Roglic, definitely, 100%.
Like speaking of Roglic, when do you think he'll try to go for it? What do you think his approach will be? Because he doesn't have the supporting cast that he had last year on Jumbo. That's for sure.
I think he's a warrior. He's a fighter, and he's going to keep fighting till the very end, no matter what. So I expect him more towards the second part of Tour de France, really showing up his chances on this race. We won't see him at the beginning. He will be around, but he won't do anything. He won't be anxious about showing his form. It's a long race and it's harder towards the end. So I'm 100% convinced he's going to be there. And he's got a good team with Jai Hindley and Blasov. He's going to be surrounded by good riders in the mountains, especially.
Yeah, Blasov is super strong. Doesn't get talked about a lot. And then you mentioned how juicy it is to get the yellow jersey on stage one. We know Romain Bardet, he got yellow with that team dynamic. Frank Vandenbroek, do you think he should have let Romain win that? Or because that can be a career changing thing, and he's a young GC rider himself. What were your thoughts on that?
Yeah, probably. But he showed how much respect he's got for such a champion like Bardet. He also sort of respect the plan. I'm convinced that from the team they say is full Roman today. And I remember the interviews, he kept saying like how Roman Bardet was more doing setting up the pace on up the climbs, and he was just trying to follow, and he was more useful, on more flatter terrain. So I believe for him, fair play. He was saying, I'm not the strongest, I'm not the best one here. That's Roman Bardet. So he's my teammate. So he just went full on that. Of course, if you're young and ambitious, you're first to the France, you're a heater. If you hit stage one and boom, yellow jersey and everything, it's like, come on, what can you expect? But I think it really showed a lot of respect, and he was quite emotional about that as well. So well played.
I agree. I know sometimes there's a discussion among cycling fans, like the best cyclist should win, but cycling is a team sport. I know it doesn't look like it all the time, especially after what we saw last year at the Vuelta with Jumbo-Visma. But I think showing that respect to Romain will go a long way for him in the future, and get him some respect on the team as well. Speaking of other teams, Team Astana, man, we saw what happened today. They were not in the finish at all. Do you think that Mark Cavendish will really be able to achieve number 35? I mean, we saw stage one, he did not look in good shape. They said it was dehydration. I think it was something else. I think maybe this is totally unfounded. No sources, but I feel like maybe he had a little too much partying the night before and the heat got to him. But I mean, he's a professional. He got through it. He's still in the race. Do you think he can really get the 35th stage win?
They threw up a couple of times, didn't he?
You're right.
So could be anything. While being in Italy, he's lived not far from where the start of the tour was. So I'm sure he's got some mates around to have a good time. But
exactly,
he's a professional. And we have to see it that way. And well, I mean, knowing Cap, having been his teammate, he's such a focused man, and same as Roglic, his experience, he's gonna come back. He's gonna come towards more the end, I believe. So, and he's just letting this first stage roll, and there's not many opportunities for him. But as soon as someone shows up, he's gonna try. Why not to achieve that 35th victory on Tour de France?
And I think it's definitely possible. He only needs one stage. Anything can happen, as we saw today, even with the crash late towards the finish. And then Biniam ended up winning, which I was ecstatic about. I did not expect for today to be his day. I know he's capable of it, but with the flat finish, he's usually it needs to be a harder finish, a little bit more of an incline. But when he gets a straight shot and he can wind it up, I think he's one of the best. I mean, what were your thoughts on what you saw today?
God, I mean, I saw him going first, anticipating, and I thought, all right, you're going way too far, right? But he just, sometimes things need to roll as well. You need to be lucky, and his luck, I think it was like the lead got boxed in. And yeah, of course, Girmay, he got the legs. He did an amazing long sprint, but no one could really beat him. I mean, my uncertainty is like, did the lead really got the legs to beat him? I don't know. He couldn't show that, but it was so impressive the way he went. He saw the gap there next to the barriers when everything was forming. And you need to be, not just having the legs at the moment, just seeing the gap, seeing all right, I need to go that way. Otherwise, I'm going to get boxed in myself as well. So he's got that. He anticipated, which is something super difficult to do for a sprinter. You know that always there's talks about like, all right, your pure power, your peak power comes after 6 seconds, right? So you can't really deliver more after 6 seconds if you're a sprinter.
Right.
So there's sort of timing that way, right? And those 5, 6, 7, obviously Girmay went longer than that. And you have to gamble. And I think he did gamble. I think he saw the moment. He trusted his instinct and he just went. And an amazing victory. Very well deserved and made history. Amazing.
Yeah, absolutely great for the sport. And Dali is another sprinter. I actually just made a video on him. I'm very high on. Same type of long range sniper, I like to call him. And Benny's teammate got boxed in as well. They weren't even going for Benny today. They were going for Mike Tennyson, I believe his name is. Yeah.
Yeah.
And he was boxed in. And
yeah,
Benny, like you said, just made the best of the opportunity and went for it. And I mean, you got to be gutsy to go against all in against the barriers. I mean, I was getting nervous. These sprinters are crazy.
Yeah. And so to watch those sprints, you're always like, oh my god, they're gonna crash, and they see that's a skill as well, right? Just trying to understand and to see the moment and the gap and just go through and make it through. And we see the obviously the risk in a way, but they don't appreciate that when they're there. That's something I really appreciate from sprinter, from pure sprinter, just the way they just go and take the risk. Or we see risk, but they don't. They just see an opportunity and they take it and they go for it.
Absolutely. Well, thanks for joining me today, man. If you guys like this episode, we will be doing more of them. We have another one coming up on the next rest day and then final rest day, and then we'll do a post Tour de France episode together as well. Let me know in the comments, what do you guys think, if Mark Cavendish will get the 35th victory or not, and we'll see you in the next video.
Thanks, Calvin, and looking forward to this.